What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be discussing Insomniac's newest video game, Spider-Man 2. Now, a little different than my typical review. You typically see me reviewing movies or TV shows, but I do say that every single outro you guys like talking about anything movies, video games, or TV related. So video games is always in the discussion. You know, these are more rare videos. I'm not going to be doing video game reviews all the time, and especially because they don't come out as consistently as movies, and especially don't come out to the quality that are worthy of a discussion like this game that just came out, Spider-Man 2. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the review. Now, Spider-Man 2, of course, is probably the biggest discussion right now in video games. You see it everywhere on social media, articles, Facebook, TikTok. Spider-Man 2 is just everywhere. And as of right now, this morning I checked, it is Sony's fastest selling video game ever, which is insane to think about. You know, of course, we have the original Spider-Man, you have Spider-Man Miles Morales, and now you have Spider-Man 2 where you can play as both of them, and this just builds upon what those two games did amazing. Now, of course, probably the biggest thing that everybody has been saying is that this is going to be Game of the Year. And we'll get into that a little bit more in detail a little bit later. And I 100% agree that this is going to be a contender with Game of the Year. And I'm like about 95% sure that it will win Game of the Year, specifically because of how mainstream the game is. But again, we'll get into that a little bit later. But speaking about the game itself, I'm about 90% completion on the game. I've had it for 2 days, and I've done every side mission. I'm about 4 missions away from beating the game completely. I have almost every collectible. So I'm about 90% done with the game, and I've experienced a lot of different goods and bad with the game, actually. Now, speaking on the good, the story, obviously, with the game like this is pretty immense. For even having a sort of short gameplay time, I'm about 20 hours in and about almost done with the game, and that's doing everything. If you're doing main mission alone, you can probably finish the game within 8 hours, to be honest. But story itself, I think they do a really good job overall telling the story, the different emotions between the characters, especially Miles Morales' character. I really think his character is probably the kind of forefront when it comes to having a lot of ups and downs, right? Him trying to get into college, stuff with his mom, still having to kind of have that weight on the shoulder of his dad when he passed, and trying to live up to his dad's expectations, being the newer Spider-Man, having the girl that he likes, still being a good friend to his best friend. And he has so much on his plate, and you see that throughout the game and the different loops that he has to go through. And I think his character is definitely kind of filled out a lot more. Unfortunately, I don't think I can say the same for Peter Parker's character. I don't think his story in the game is as fleshed out as Miles Morales, especially the what he has on his shoulders. And when you get into the whole, this is not really a spoiler, when you get into the whole Venom side of Peter Parker, and when Venom is a part of him and he has the black Venom suit, and Peter Parker becomes a seriously unlikable character. It's hard to have fun playing as a character that you're not too fond of at that moment. And I get it, you know, with the whole Venom suit, it kind of takes over his mind. It changes the way his personality is. You even seen it in movies when Venom is involved. But it was done to a point where I was having a tough time playing as Peter Parker, because I was like, I really don't want to do this. I'd rather just be playing as Miles Morales. But I get it when it comes to story's sake. And the whole Venom stuff, honestly, I thought it was going to be more prominent within the game, but it is so far out into almost beating the game, which is kind of insane. I do like the way it was implemented. It was a little bit different than what you would traditionally see from Spider-Man. But overall, I think the Venom part is pretty awesome. And especially that you get to play as so many different characters in this game, and Venom being one of them, which is freaking awesome. Like, that was the moment where I was like, oh, this game is badass. And that is the part where, to me, I'm like, this might not be game of the year for me. Where it took 20 hours for me to be like, oh, this game is the shit. It is badass. It took me 20 hours to have that feeling for me. Now, don't get me wrong. The rest of the game is amazing. It's beautiful. The visuals, the combat, the swinging, the different suits you can find, everything is amazing. Like I said, this is definitely contender for game of the year. But I don't think, in my opinion, it should be. Now, this is where I'm gonna get into a little bit of a rant. Now, I didn't make a review on this other game that I'm about to discuss. I wish I did, because to me, this other game is game of the year. Now, if you don't know what it is, it's called Baldur's Gate 3. And Baldur's Gate 3, the reason why it's gonna be unfortunately not game of the year is because it's such a niche video game. Only a certain amount of people like to play a game like Baldur's Gate 3. First of all, it's based off of Dungeons and Dragons, which I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. I actually play the tabletop game, so this is definitely an appeal for me. And two, you have to get people that love playing MMORPGs, right? But the reason why I think Baldur's Gate is so much more of a bigger contender of Game of the Year than Spider-Man 2 is because the immensity of that game. And a lot of times people will say that the quantity does not outweigh the quality. But the thing with Baldur's Gate 3 is that it has so much quantity and the quality is through the roof. The customization, the storytelling, the thing that the slightest decision can change the entire game. I have 3 campaigns going out at once and they've all been different so far. And I've tried to make the same decisions and it's still completely different. On that game, I have 115 hours played and I'm not even done yet with my original campaign, which I have about 60 hours in. You know, I have 115 between 3 different campaigns. But my solo campaign, I have about 60 hours in and I'm still not even done with it. I'm still not even done with the story. And there's so much things that I've missed, which is insane to think about. So a game like that to me is game of the year. I still truly stand by that game is going to be game of the year for me. Now, Spider-Man 2 is most likely going to be game of the year. Just because of the mainstream of it and the popularity of superhero games, right? For me, to be honest, Batman Arkham Knight, I still put that game over Spider-Man 2. I put most of the Batman games over Spider-Man 2. And that might be a little biased because Batman is my number 1 superhero and Spider-Man is my number 2 superhero in terms of my favorites. So I guess it's a little biased in terms of my favorites between superheroes, but I still think the combat, the storytelling, the atmosphere of the Batman games do better than the Spider-Man 2. And I've ran into some issues within Spider-Man 2 that were honestly frustrating. And there's such little nitpick things, but it just takes away from the experience where you're doing a mission, you complete a certain portion of it, and the game doesn't register that you completed it. So you have to restart from the last checkpoint and do that same mission all over again, just so it can register the next portion that you're supposed to go on. And that didn't happen to me once. It happened to me multiple times within my 20 hours of this game. And I know I can't be the only one that's experienced that so far because it is something that's happened to one person. It's got to happen to more. But overall, like I said, this game for sure is contender game of the year. I think the game did an amazing job. Insomniac did an amazing job with this game. And PlayStation has gone through the roof because of it. And it's games like this and like Baldur's Gate and like Starfield that bring people together, which is awesome. It brings discussions together. It makes us feel like kids again when video games was all we had. And that's what I love about games like this. So I love Spider-Man 2. I think it's definitely one of the best games I've played in the last decade. And I for sure believe it should be a contender Game of the Year along with Baldur's Gate. And if either one of those two win, I will be completely and utterly satisfied. But let me know what you guys thought about Spider-Man 2. I thought it was an amazing game. Let me know your experiences down below in the comment section. And again, if you guys love talking about anything movies, video games, or TV related, consider subscribing down below. And I'll see you guys on the next review. Thank you.